So we have a very packed agenda for today. We have an icebreaker. I hope everyone has gotten a post-it or two. We are just sending this across. Then we have Venki talking us through the question pool of systems and narratives. What shapes narratives? Do narratives shape systems? Do systems shape narratives? And what is this interlocked piece that we are all in? Then we will do a little bit of group work, which is going to be uncovering the narratives. In this, we will walk you through the idea that we have. Then we will be uncovering the systems within the narratives, and we will do a group share back and do it. So it's very bad. So these are just a few ground rules to get us started. ये कुछ हमारे लिए नजरिया रखने के लिए है. That we value each one's perspective. It's a mixed group. So there are people here who are communicators, who are communicators, media communicators, quite a few.
कौन से लोग इधर सरकार से काम करते हैं? सरकार who all work with the government apparatus in the land and climate context. Okay.
Policy, think tanks, researchers, quite a few. So it's a mixed group. What we believe is that we all bring an intersectionality of expertise here. So जब हम groups में बैठेंगे, so we are going to listen to each other, hear each other's perspective. The idea is to not have an answer which is a yes and a no, because what we are looking at is quite complex. Be honest, be kind. It's a lot to expect, but we will all try. We will follow the process, and if we plan to take any photographs, let's just ask for consent and be mindful of what we are capturing and how. So these are just a few ground rules to get us started. So as we begin, the first question for you all is, and आप इसे बहुत लोग pre-workshop में रहे होंगे, आज सुबह sessions में रहे होंगे, techniques से काम से. जब हम कहानियाँ देखते हैं, when we look at stories in the media when it comes to land, climate, energy transition, ये सारे भी बहुत सारे words हैं. What we don't want to see in media, कि कोई ऐसा शब्द है जो हमें frustrate करता है, हम ये नहीं देखना चाहते. ये बदल जाना चाहिए, हम ये नहीं देखना चाहते. So if you all can just write it with our name on the post. It could be a phrase, it could be a word,
anything
it
that
could
triggers
be an
you.
idea.
Only one?
Or you can write 2, 3 and make a list. If there is a list, please make a list.
The idea is to actually see what triggers you, so that we actually work on that part, because that's where any part of working on narratives will actually involve on. सबके पास है post-its?
Pens, pencils, there are quite a few stationery chemicals.
The word and
Your name and what's that one word? One word.
जिन्होंने लिख दिया ऑलरेडी, हम आएंगे तो बोर्ड पे लगाना शुरू कर सकते हैं. और and I start reading also, so it gives people a perspective of what has come up. Land acquisition, eviction. Land acquisition और eviction को हिंदी में क्या बोलेंगे?
carbon and green.
We don't want
Topical
to
words.
Loss of livelihood because of climate change. Pollution, deforestation, climate. Increase in climate. Climate change. Climate change.
Factor of production.
Loss. Loss नहीं देखना चाहते. Crop loss.
Sustainable शब्द से बहुत लोग के विरुद्ध. Net
zero. Net zero का मतलब हमें नहीं पता. Encroachment of land.
The world leaders not coming to term on understanding climate change. Thank you. System change. Sustainable development.
They don't want names.
Publicity on success and achievements. Climate-induced displacement. Digital mining, logistics, infra development.
Underdeveloped land is useless, organic, dawai, food systems are not the consumer responsibility, farmers are uneducated and helpless. So everyone agrees that these are popular narratives, right? Would anyone like to share a reflection or two? Because there is a very clear pattern and we'll try to create a pattern here. कोई शेयर करना चाहेंगे कि उन्होंने क्या लिखा और क्यों लिखा और अपने आप को इंट्रोड्यूस भी कीजिएगा.
Hi, my name is Anshu and I'm from Land Rights Initiative at Center for Policy Research. I work as a researcher. I wrote digital building, infrastructure development and land development. So I feel like this about these terms is because mostly when I work in tribal areas, a lot of times there is this idea that this land can be used for better development and it's a resource which we can use in a better way rather than tribals living there and having a sustainable ecosystem. So and the other thing, so infrastructure development, mining and landlessness is related to that. On the other hand, I'm actually at a stage where I'm fed up with all sorts of digital schemes related to land because I feel like the way we are have the approach that we have in India right now to the digitalization of land is very, very exclusive in its approach because it's including only the upper caste, the privileged, the urban, the educated people, but that's not the major population in India. So yeah, that is why I think.
Thank you. And Suchi. Anyone else?
So yeah, couple of, okay, I'm Sambhav. I run this organization called Land Conflict Watch. Couple of words I wrote, carbon and green. I feel should be replaced. Carbon is sort of is a replacement for or an alternative that is used and in many ways watched. What is the accountability and responsibility of towards climate change? Like by adding a lot of carbon things, basically everybody wants to like sort of shed away the responsibility and accountability by technology, markets, etc. emerging around carbon, including carbon emission reduction, whole debate narrative around that. Green again, I think is again used for greenwashing. So anything which is wrong, you can do something green, right? Quote unquote. What is green? Nobody knows. So green should be basically replaced for greenwashing. Another thing I forgot to add is wasteland, which should also be sort of removed from the. Someone has actually already. By the whole narrative about how wasteland should be used, what is a wasteland is assigned to different things. In India, no land is wasteland. There is a lot of community uses, there is a lot of biodiversity uses, which is not recognized in the administrative debate or just the neo-technological debate of how land should be used. They think that the wasteland is waste and let's do something about it. It's again a misnomer. So, 3 words.
Thank you. Sorry, before we move forward, I just wanted both the facilitators to also introduce themselves. Sorry.
I'm Komal. I also work with India. I'm personally working on mental partnership on creating better communities.
Thank you. So thank you. I think there are like a lot of patterns that we are seeing here, and let's keep this in mind next time when we are doing a story, next time when we are shaping narratives, next time we want to publish a report, words to have and words not to have in that. Let's move
So यहाँ पर अभी हम we saw the list of words that trigger us, that words that we don't want to see. But at the end of the day, these are a part of the narrative that is floating in the air, and that's the problem. Right? So many times what happens is we want to bring change in the systems, but we end up using certain narratives to bring those things, and oftentimes we end up being frustrated. We end up really seeing not able to really push the boundary. So what I thought is very important for in this context is to actually identify what is the difference between system and narrative. Right? So let me just give a bit of a introduction for the words in case some of you are not familiar with these words. Narrative is not just about story. Narrative is how exactly जो हमारे दिमाग में जिस प्रकार की जो ग्रुप्स बैठ जाते हैं और उस ग्रुप से जब हम सोचने लग जाते हैं, भले हम उसको गाली भी दें, फिर भी वो ग्रुप्स हमारे दिमाग के अंदर बैठ जाते हैं. Right? That's exactly how typically any narrative works. Those crevices is where I think we also need to focus a lot more. Right? We may not like to see them, but somewhere they still start shaping our minds. So that's why we look at as narratives. So narratives of course change, बदलते रहते हैं. So now अभी this big important question is कि system और narrative में cart क्या है, horse क्या है? ये एक इंग्लिश मेटाफोर है जहाँ पे कार्ट को पहले हॉर्स पे रखे, हॉर्स को पहले कार्ट पे रखे. तो सिस्टम और नैरेटिव्स में आपको क्या लगता है कि कौन से पहले आगे आना चाहिए? घोड़े सिस्टम्स पे आना चाहिए या नैरेटिव आना चाहिए? यहाँ पे कोई मेरे पास कोई सही जवाब ऐसे कोई है नहीं है. तो वी हैव टू बोथ आंसर्स आर राइट इन wrong in many ways. What you would love to hear is your reflections and thoughts. What do you think should come first?
I don't think any.
Okay, why?
Well, it's either which way the horse started and pulling it is pushing it.
But that's where we are, no? Aren't we? If we look at the number of words we saw here, एक तरफ से ऐसा लगता है कि गाड़ी आगे घोड़े आगे जा ही नहीं रहे. But where is exactly the change has to come from? Should the narrative be put in the front or should the system be put in the front? If you were to only look at these two answers, what is your right answer? What do you think is right answer?
I think narrative consequences.
Okay, why is that?
The purpose of narrative is to build a good systems. You are influencing something through narrative, and the objective is a good system. So narrative probably is a means to a good system.
Okay. Right. Sure.
Is it vice versa? If you don't have a good system, when you have a system, that's when you have a narrative, and then you build on that narrative.
Yeah, I mean many times we don't have a good system, but we still end up building good narratives.
Yeah.
We've done that many times,
Yeah. I mean,
many places. Any more reflections?
नैरेटिव सिस्टम से निकला या सोसाइटी से निकला हुआ वो थॉट एंड प्रोसेस है जो वो चाहते हैं, सिस्टम को उनको थोपा जाता है या उनको उसमें लागू किया जाता है, इसलिए वो उनकी फ्रीडम उनकी जैसे वो
ये बहुत सही बात कहा आपने कि सिस्टम जहाँ पे एक कंस्ट्रेंट आता है, सिस्टम के खास तरह में एक जगह से ज़्यादा आगे जा नहीं सकते. whereas narratives पे we can focus on किस प्रकार चेंज ला सकते. Great point. Any more? Yes.
Similar to this only, I feel like narrative which is inspired or built by the people, जिनके बारे में वो narrative है, should influence the system and then it makes sense. So the narrative first, which is by the people, and then the system follows in after. Then I think.
I think the problem is with the picture.
But that's exactly why we are here.
Leave the picture and use the system to direct it.
No, but that's exactly why we are here, to actually see the problem is in the picture, where we have to see how do we actually bring together the narrative and the system together. That's where a lot of systems are not working. Yes.
Well, coming from a society which is has a very oral tradition, which is all based on narratives, I think the narrative is very well governed by the system, just as much as the system governs the narrative. So they both need to work hand in hand together.
Any system that exists in a paradigm, and you can change the system, but the paradigm stays the same. Paradigm can be disrespectful or screen watching, making things mean. So if you change the narrative, then you can enable people to change the paradigm that the system exists. You can keep pushing the system system will change and you can replace it with something else. Only when you engineer the resource, then make the system kind of self-sustaining.
Okay. One last.
Yeah, so my only point is that narrative could be narratives, because you might have multiple narratives that can influence the system. So for example, the system that we have today is a system that we got, say, after independence. And that system was the narrative of, say, an elite class or the colonial class, right? But over time, we see India has so many layers and so many narratives that somehow don't get captured in the system. So that's my point, narratives and not narratives.
Yeah, we still always have a formal India and an informal India. They are always a conflict with each other.
But I feel narratives are always there. System may be there or may not be there. Narratives might create a system. Even if there is no system, there can be narrative.
Yeah, that's an informal terms.
There can be a requirement and then narrative creates a system. And even if there is a system, there is a narrative. So the narrative is the cooling factor of the pushing factor. To then create a system for the betterment of
Yeah, in terms of there is an informal system that is in place. Right? We were earlier talking about customary land rights. Right? वहाँ पर there has been an informal system and so there is a pastoralist claims his right. But वहाँ पर कोई system नहीं है to actually enforce that informal system. और a formal system नहीं है to enforce that informal system and so we get into the same loop कि यहाँ पे है कि नहीं. So we want to take this एक और गहराई में जाना चाहते हैं. So we will look at the whole dimension of समाज सरकार and इंतजार. तो ये आपस में अगर आप सिविल सोसाइटी में काम करते हो ये शब्द को आप लोग बहुत यूज किए होंगे और सुने भी होंगे. So every individual is right now under the pull and is influenced by a lot by Samaj Sarkar and Bazaar. So in this, one of the questions that we are also exploring is how are we, the narratives of land, climate, how are they getting influenced by Samaj Sarkar and Bazaar? यहाँ पर संचार is the media है which is sort of oftentimes reflects what is happening there and also wants to change. But हम लोग अभी इस एक घंटे में जो हमारे पास जो टाइम है, we are only trying to explore समाज सरकार और बाजार के बीच में टीम में किसके पास powers है to bring the changes. In what ways can we change the narrative and in what ways can we understand the relationship between the three. So we will do the activity here. एक हमारे पास 2-3 articles हैं. So ये common articles हैं, popular articles हैं.
I can just like talk a little bit, but I just want to make sure that we keep a lens of what Nivedita said, which is इस सिस्टम के पैराडाइम में ऑपरेट कर रहा है. तो जब हम सोच रहे हैं तो इन आइडियाज के ऊपर बिल्ड करेंगे. The idea is not that we have a framework and we just follow that. The idea is that the new lenses that you bring into this are really like what within this are you operating, etc. What we are going to do is split into groups. I realize that the group size is really big. So maybe we can do, so we have 3 articles that we are going to read together. हमारे पास 3 आर्टिकल हैं और मुद्दा बहुत सिंपल है. अगर आप हेडलाइन भी पढ़ेंगे तो मुद्दा समझ जाएंगे क्योंकि ये कहानियाँ हम रोज पढ़ते हुए आए हैं और ये कहानियाँ वही हैं जो हमने यहाँ लिखी. तो हम 3 I think we are 30 है.
Yeah, so can we quickly do 1, 2, 3 rounds so that we
Should we make a group? I'm thinking let's make 6 groups. Otherwise the group size will be of 10, which is really we have. So could we do a count of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 starting from here, and then we'll split in groups. We will read this article together. अपना जो interpretation है जहाँ पे हम बैठे हैं जहाँ पे हमारा काम है उसको समझेंगे और उसके बाद हमारी एक्टिविटी है कि हम इसको रीइमेजिन करेंगे कि हम अगर ये हेडलाइन नहीं और ये आर्टिकल नहीं तो क्या पढ़ना चाहेंगे. आप में से बहुत लोगों ने कहा कि पीपल शेप नैरेटिव, तो लोग क्या कह रहे हैं, किस नजरिए से ये लिखा गया है. सो वी आर गोइंग टू ट्राई एंड रीइमेजिन द हेडलाइन इटसेल्फ. सो लेट्स डू अ 1 to 6 का काउंट. 1 2 and the number of items 6
1,
2
5,
3 and 6.
6, your 6.
3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3,
4,
5, 6, 1, 2, 4, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6,
1, 2, 3.
So if we can just gather in our group numbers, I hope सबको याद है और अपने friends 6. If we can just gather in our groups, move the chairs around.
So यहाँ पर अभी क्वेश्चन ये है कि जो हम लोग जो स्टोरी ये दिखा रहे हैं, इसके किस पर दबाव ज्यादा है, समाज का या सरकार और बाजार का, किसका इन्फ्लुएंस सबसे ज्यादा है, and how do we reimagine the narrative based on each of these? So that's the question. We give you a, you don't have to read the full article, बड़ा आर्टिकल है, अक्सर वैसे हम पढ़ते भी नहीं है, तो इवन आप हेडलाइन पढ़ेंगे भी तो काफी है। हेडलाइन पढ़ के फिर उसके आप समाज की तरफ से कैसे देखें, इसको बाजार की तरफ से कैसे देखें और समाज की तरफ से कैसे देखें, that is that. Is it clear?
If you can split in groups of 1 to 6,
Sure.
we will
So-
come around and read the articles. These are mostly in English, and if people in the group can help translate in other languages, etc., will be good. The activity is in 2 segments. One is about reimagining the headline, and the second is to analyze it from a systems lens. जो हमने बात कर दिया market, society और सरकार की, and where is the media place. Yes.
I'll translate here. See, what we are trying to do is essentially we're giving you a piece of article. You can read the headlines and then see what is it will take to rechange the narrative based on a Samaj is society, Sarkar is government, Bazaar is market. From the lens of government, market and society, what would it take to change those narratives? So you can either rewrite the narratives, or if you think that the narrative is not working out, you can kind of point out why it's not working out. So just focus on, right now we focus only on the narrative form. And once we do that, then the second part of the workshop activity, we will then look at what are the systems that are involved to actually bring those change in narratives. Yeah? So that's the 2 parts that we're going to work on today.
So for the first segment, we have 15 minutes. These are the prompts on the screen. The prompts are what is the current coverage type that you all have spoken about, what issues are covered mostly, what narratives are mainstream, what are missing. The further prompt to this is stories you wish were covered and for whom. किसका benefit है story? Benefit lens से सोचना is really important. If you could change the tone of coverage from pity to power, from problem to possibility, from invisibility to visible. If you think there are groups who are invisible, who are not shown in this, who are not spoken about, how do you change that? So we are going to have everyone remember the count, no?
Yes.
So
6. So 1 here, 1, 2, 3, 2 rows. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Let's get ourselves moving. Should we put on some music? And what we're introducing other
yeah, we have 15 minutes, so yeah, we will at least set it
Watch the camera there.
आपके टीम में से एक और लीडर जैसे चुनने लिए who will summarize it and present. So you understood the activity. So you'll have to look at the headline and then see what ways you can change the narrative. But sort of divide, look at all the aspects of Saman Sarkar. Yeah?
कोई चीज नहीं है
हाँ जी
कोई चीज नहीं है
हाँ तो वो क्या प्रॉब्लम है इसको तो वो बता दो। अगर चेंज नहीं हो रहा है right now the narrative is improving. I guess the narrative goes beyond it.
Ideas to focus on A and look at it. So it's not about copying complexity. We all need to form a judgment based on what you see and then look at recipe. Ideas to look at
There's a group workshop activity going on. This is 14 month workshop activity this week.
Like, do I make a space for you? Then you bring the tripod there. खाली कर दूँ आप? नहीं, यहाँ पे रख देते हैं. अगर इस बार यहाँ पे यहाँ पे ऊपर दिखाना है. What's your name? Romy. I'm just out of here to check the photo, but I want to wear so just maybe at home and leave the tripod and that's why I wanted to maybe get the views. Training
Don't spend time reading a lot of the article. Idea is to rethink the narrative and work with the narrative, not on the article. Focus is not on the
Which one
After the second part, they show the after the next exercise,
So what you're saying, viability for the people that
Yeah, like you should very assuming that everyone has that. Which means
So the more you work, the it's a sad story. Which of course is led by the government support big industry to take inputs are very expensive, pesticide, it's a sad
we will do till 12. At 12 we will do playback. We will not do we are short on time, so we are not doing the second act. We will only do the first one. At 12 we will all share with everyone.
If we give them 15 minutes extra, if you want 33, they thought they'll go extra.
What is that? How would you recreate the last one? If it were to be published next time, then how does that work? That's the key thing in it. If you actually look at it from a purely societal lens, what would have the article look like? And if you look at purely from a market lens, then a very purely a how would it look? So if we write down each of these things, we
हमें उनसे काम करने की जरूरत है
Which one? Is it At least we know he conversation with his
फ्लिप तो नहीं है, फ्लिप केस तो नहीं यहाँ से यहाँ से हो गया था क्या? हमारा नहीं हुआ।
maybe किसी और का है. Let's hope that the art is going well.
Should I put sometimes maybe can we sometimes
highlight sessions.
Some sessions. We have to make something. ओरिएंटेशन इज इसको ऑन करना है क्या? अच्छा, everything is coming this way. So which was this way? So orientation is good. Can you press this? Orientation is good. Which हो रहा है? Can you try this? You want no. The font should be this way. It's just that I think the setting has to be changed. Some settings there. What are this? No, because that's not sharing. Do we turn this that phone as well? It's been in this angle for a while. We can turn the other right?
नहीं तो पूरा सीधा यहाँ से करना पड़ेगा सीधा करके देखो लाइव पे
So then we have to
Which group is ready already? Four more minutes. Please start consolidating their notebooks.
Also, disagreements are good. The ideal also is
So I don't know how I would read it, but it's
okay, 30 seconds.
Is it in the phone settings? On the phone.
Okay, should we start the share back? Because we only have this room. Hello?
We have the room till 12:15. 12:15. Can we all? Yeah. So we will start the share. So we have the room till 12:15. So still must go up set it down so that we can hear from the who's the first group. Yeah.
Hello everyone.
Can you quickly set it up?
Can everyone say hi together? Hello? Hello?
Yeah, can you spread it down? We'll ask the first presentation.
Let me get the back in the back and the jacket.
Just a few things to keep in mind that we don't think that in 10 minutes we have the perfect answers. The idea is to jog our brains, to think about new ideas in a group, to think about and push ourselves in our perspective, in our lenses that we hold. So the idea is that you all go back with a lot of more questions and a lot of more ideas to think. So request है कि जब कोई group design कर रहा है तो लोग सुनेंगे और अगर notes लेने हैं तो you can just pick up any stationery that is there. So yeah, over.
Is there a provision where we can stretch it more and then school
And one more thing is also in your
सीधा कर दो इसको ऐसे।
try and see where is the intersection between Samaj Sarkar and Development.
No, this is
These
the
are
X
not
at the moment,
existing
no?
vacuums.
So can we
Right,
stretch
for ideas,
this so
ideas
that
stages you can say these all exist, but they are all interconnected. So when you're listening in, try and see how are they interconnected. Please.
Also, if the first
That
group
angle
was
doesn't
writing
work.
the article, can for everyone give the headline of the article was about.
Just give an overview. Yeah.
छोटा हो सकता है
2 minutes per group, please.
Timer.
Yeah, next time.
We have 6 groups, so we'll put. Yeah.
That was the size of an Instagram reel. Which group is going first? Five. So, we are group number 5 and the article that the board had the headline, the fight over land holding back India's green energy revolution. So we felt that the current coverage or the mainstream narratives of the article, we it's a very long article, we couldn't read the entire bit, but from what we could grasp from like skimming through the article was that in the article it was the most the focus was mostly on like how people are seen as stakeholders or obstacles or hindrances to like large solar development projects in the country. The land is seen as a finite resource, but how much is the need of the community for this project was not reflected in the article anywhere. It was mostly the top-to-down approach that how people are not giving up their land or their relationship with the land was not explored in the article. Nowhere in the article it was mentioned like what is the community going to gain out of this, out of these like solar panel or large development projects. There was very less focus on industry and government's accountability on stopping violations. And lastly, there was like since the article was published in Financial Times, the focus was mostly on attracting foreign direct investments. That is apparently very crucial for the country's development. So if we had to reimagine the narrative, our focus would be on like people's relationship with their land, their identity, their livelihoods, how they are dependent on the land, having the say of the communities in these projects, more community voices, their perspectives, their knowledge,
For example, what should be the native vegetation, etc. Instead of top to bottom approach, there could be a more holistic approach focusing on land, communities. There could be some mention of what are people or communities gaining out of all of this. Yeah, it could be like more visible. And if we had to reimagine the headline, it could be like India's green revolution is leaving people behind.
So in this, one question and reflection is the bazaar is completely out of the picture here. It's a very strong Samaj and Sarkar led. So if we want to worthwhile think about why is that?
Yeah, no, I think just the counter to it, because the bazaar, the existing article is from the bazaar focus.
Yeah.
Understood.
So you wanted to counter that
and
point.
that's what
It should be there.
What is the headline? India's green revolution is leaving people behind.
Thank you. The idea is to actually to really look at it. Now that's where if you were to, it is from a strong bazaar, but if you were to reimagine it from a different lens from bazaar, how would it look like was the idea of existence.
But this is really good reflections. So thank you. What
Thank
we
you.
try to do is capture all the reflections here in terms of the gaps that you all saw. And I think these are really important gaps that you all have captured, and hopefully यहाँ पे जितने communicators हैं इन gaps को पकड़ के इनके ऊपर और काम कर पाएंगे आगे जाके. So thank you. Let's clap for them.
Next group, who is ready?
तो हमारा भी सेफ्टी आर्टिकल था और हमने भी यही मतलब काफ़ी सारी चीज़ें पहले वाले ग्रुप ने बोल दिए तो हम रिपीट नहीं करेंगे, लेकिन हमारा एक ऑब्जर्वेशन जो था वो हेडलाइन को लेकर वो यही था कि ऐसे शब्द यूज़ करना कि होल्डिंग बैक इंडियाज़ ग्रीन एनर्जी रेवोल्यूशन जब आप बोलते हैं तो एक बहुत ही अलार्मिस्ट और एक बहुत ही नेगेटिव को ये है कि जो लोग हैं वो इस चीज़ को किसी एक रेवोल्यूशन हो रहा है, लोग उसको होल्ड बैक कर रहे हैं। जबकि जब आर्टिकल शुरू होता है तब इस बारे में बात हो रही है कि किस तरीके से लोगों के लैंड उनसे ले लिए जा रहे हैं। तो वो एक थोड़ा डिसोनेंस मतलब एक थोड़ा डिफरेंस है व्हाट इज़ मतलब क्या बात हो रही है और फिर आर्टिकल में आ रहा है। और हमें ये भी लगा कि मतलब पूरे पीस में समाज, सरकार और बाज़ार के बीच में भी मतलब एक कंफ्यूजन है कि किसके राइट्स की बात हो रही है, फिर कौन किसके बीच में कंफ्यूजन है, फॉरेस्ट डिपार्टमेंट का क्या रोल है, फिर सरकार जो नेट ज़ीरो के टारगेट बना रही है लेकिन फिर ये भी बोला जा रहा है लेकिन उसके लिए लैंड नहीं है, तो कहाँ से क्या हो रहा है उसका बहुत क्लैरिटी नहीं था। तो हमारा ये मतलब अंत में ये भी था कि जब हम ग्रीन एनर्जी की बात करते हैं और उसमें बस एक ही आइडिया है कि ग्रीन एनर्जी का क्या मतलब होता है कि आप सोलर लगा रहे हैं और उसमें टाटा कर रहे हैं, सब कर रहे हैं, बढ़िया जो भी कर रहे हैं, हम कुछ नहीं बोल रहे, लेकिन जो ग्रीन का आइडिया है वो किसका है, मतलब जो समाज जो सोसाइटी इतने टाइम से चीज़ों को कंजर्व कर रही है उसको बिल्कुल भी कहानी में कंसिडरेशन में नहीं लिया गया है। तो हमारा जो आइडिया है कि उसको किस तरीके से रिफ्रेम करा जाए वो इसी उसमें कि अगर जो करंट स्टोरी है उसकी हेडलाइन को हम डालेंगे तो हम उसे पलट देंगे कि कैसे वो जो एनर्जी वो है वो कैसे लोगों के राइट्स को इन्फ्रिंज कर रहा है, और अगर हम उसमें आर्टिकल भी बदल देंगे तो हम लोगों के आइडिया ऑफ ग्रीन को डालेंगे और वो कैसे लोगों सिस्टम का पार्ट हो सकते हैं। That's it.
I think you pointed out a couple of interesting points on the confusion between Samaj and Sarkar, and also there is again similar to this group there is also an othering of bazaar here. So we have to see how do we actually not other the bazaar and bring it in. Okay, next group.
Sorry, we are not able to oppose.
No problem.
So our article is from 2024. The headline says only 1/3 of an agricultural household's income in India comes from cultivation. And yeah. So the first question was, what is the current coverage like and the issues covered in it? What we notice is that it is a very bazaar-centric and this was basically presenting SSO's data of All India Rural Financial Inclusion Survey from 2021 to 2022. This was just presenting one data point of an entire survey. and we felt like it was more of a gateway for a market. The issue in this entire article that we found was that the income disparity was covered in the agriculture community or the sector. What narratives are mainstream and what are missing. Society-led narrative was presented that how in agriculture society also it's divided among two, which is the farmers holding larger land are actually making profits and their income is larger than farmers holding less land or smaller lands. And market-led narrative because it was talking about income, household income and how they can diversify and all those things. What we think this could be reimagined in multiple ways. So for example, Samaj, the marginalized farmers or farmers holding smaller land chunks should this article should have highlighted on them. Then market, the data is actually a gateway for private sector to invest in certain things, machinery, financial support and all those things, which is not right. We would want the government side to be presented, and it should be, the government side was entirely missing. Basically there was no responsibility was drawn towards the government, because apparently it's a recent article and the current government had actually promised double income to the farmers, and this entire data shows a very complete different picture. So even though the article was very surface level, in one or two lines it could reflect on the government's responsibility on it. Basically for the title, the title was actually showing the truth from a data which was genuine, but still there was a lot of injustice because there was a lost hope sort of a narrative was presented, and the farmers are losing hope, but they bear more than what was just presented. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
This is really important. I have a reflection. I was at a workshop in Bangalore, and the point around data, कि कौन सा data present हो रहा है, बहुत critical question है. And I've just written a quote that I took away from there, which is whose reality counts and who counts the reality. So just leaving that thought with you all, because the centrality of the piece focused on data से किसका benefit हो रहा है और कौन उसमें से छूट रहा है. So thank you.
Also, there is also a newer emphasis on warm data. So if you see, look at what warm data is. Google up. We don't have time to go into that, but that's also, there's an entire approach on looking at warm data as a way as to change the way we look at 90% data. Yeah. Next group.
We had a similar article.
Sure.
A lot of points are covered. We had a similar article on agriculture. So a lot of points have already covered. So pardon my land writing. So to a large extent, the narrative that we came across from the after reading the headlines and some bits of the article is that income from land is not enough. You have to diversify. That's the only way that farmers can survive, and that to a large extent that is the approach that they are trying to take ahead. And agriculturalists are always poor and in debt, and they have in the byline it has 7 times the income. The debt is equal to 7 times the income. So what we thought in terms of Samaj was could have been and should be carried forward is the resilience and adaptiveness of the agricultural system. How, even though the dependency since independence has been on the agricultural system, there is a sort of resilience in the agricultural families and the system that diversifying income. There was a whole discussion about how communities themselves and the society is moving towards that, because they realize that that sort of is the way to go. Right? Collective efforts of the small and marginalized farmers. So one thing that we thought could be covered in terms of Samaj is the collective efforts of the small and marginalized families forming collectives, forming FPOs, so that they could sort of fight this debt crisis and other sort of crisis that they are up against. So one thing that we heard in terms of Samaj is the migration aspect, how the debt is linked to the migration, how people, the farmers are leaving from one place to another. And the one thing in terms of Samaj, the women contribution in this article was not adequately presented. In terms of Bazaar, we discussed about non-farm activities
The push that we got from the article was the non-farm activities are much more lucrative than the agriculture. There is a need to shift towards that. Entrepreneurs without support, that even though small and marginal farmers are not capitalists, they are entrepreneurs. Big farmers are the from capitalists, they have the income, but small and marginal farmers are entrepreneurs without any support. So that is something that we discussed. Short-term cropping is unsustainable. You need to diversify cropping and make long-term cropping. One thing that other people also do, even though there was a mention of increase in the income, but the quality of life aspect of the farmers has not been adequately up. So, Sarkar we talked about financial inclusion, the focus on big farmers, how the schemes and other aspects are always focused on big farmers, lack of access to resources and other form of training and skills and how that aspect is lacking. One can reimagine article, the title and others, the resilience of farmers with policy misalignment.
So, what is common in both of the stories is the emphasis on Sarkar is missing. So I think there is a way to sort of bring the role of Sarkar into this and then look at the whole story. Next.
I will just keep it brief. I will have the article. She works the land but owns none. The unfinished story of India women farmers. This article talks about low land ownership and women not being recognized as farmers by national statistics bureaus, not being studied in terms of farmer suicides. Women have to take care of the farm and the family, the home, everything. Once the husband migrates, but they are not being compensated for the labor. So we took we debated different kinds of headlines. We don't really have so many notes. But one headline focusing more on Samaj was unaccounted status of India's farm workers. So it talks broadly about the issues with reporting in agriculture, and one approach was to target all of these Samaj Sarkar Bazaar. A triangle keeping India malnourished. Then there was some discussion to reframe the focus of the article to positive solution-oriented spin. So one was how feminist agriculture can boost India's GDP by 7.5%. One of the statistics in the article mentioned that women's invisible labor contributes 7.5% to the Indian GDP. Similarly, then women farmers are the unsung heroes of India's GDP. And then we had one about gender equality index, so leaving women behind, how low land ownership ranks India solely on the gender equality index. So we tried different approaches of clickbait, piquing the reader's interest, solution-oriented, blame-oriented, but we were able to come up with so many.
Thank you for this. I think there's also a question of definitions, right? I mean, the word farmer is very male-centric. So in most of the other countries, they've adopted the word growers to actually indicate the diversity. But हम लोग वहाँ तक पहुँचे नहीं.
Article, and what we did was we first thought we could each of the three stakeholders view this article, and for Samaj, while some would think that this brings out the view of, say, the hardships that women face and throws more light on the struggle, the work contributions of women, some would also think this is normal because women tend to do a lot of unrecognized hard work, right? At the same time, there's also the question of whose land are they working on, right? Who gets what is the end product of the land? For Sarkar, one of the views that we discussed was that they would think, oh, this might be some person who might not know a lot about the on-ground schemes, etc. And the writers focusing on the issue and not really gone to be in depth on the solution, and it's probably writing out of context of what is actually happening in rural area. This could be one of the viewpoints of Sarkar. And another viewpoint could be that at least women are employed. That also could be one of the viewpoints, because the focus has been on employment for a lot of governments. And since women make up a huge percent of the rural agricultural workforce, this could be one of the focus. They might also see it as a concern, right? And want to work towards women ownership, because we were also discussing that this is not just true for agriculture, but it's true for a lot of industries where there might be a lot of capital that you might need to invest. It's the same for waste collection, where collection and aggregation of waste is done by women, but waste recovery and the machines required for waste recovery are all owned by men. So this could be also true for other sectors. Yeah.
I mean, we also thought that looking at it from the perspective of bazaar, there's a lot of potential that women who are employed in agriculture carry. There can be a lot of other ways of earning for them. This is women livelihoods from bazaar. There are a lot of stories of power that have been existing where women have benefited from various livelihood programs and have been earning and have been supporting their families. So I think a lot of shift from the narrative, from seeing them as somebody not, or from the perspective of Bechari, we also need to see what is happening on the ground, what are some real changes happening, what are some real the move from struggle to actually achieving something is happening. So that is the gap I think we also see that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You all brought a lot more depth on the policy side and how it goes beyond Bechari and all of that, mentalistic kind of view. So I think, thank you. We are almost at the end of time. We hope that you carry this lens forward in terms of seeing where each of them influences and how they all interlink with each other. We are a part of the network, just Hands of Transition, and you could maybe take a
so just two things that we have captured all your insights here. If you want to take pictures of this, please do. The second is, we hope that this has opened up new ideas. I think हर group ने एक article को एक अलग lens से देखा और कोई shared learning बनी है. So I hope you all are unlearning something. Learning तो हम करते ही रहते हैं, रोज job पे जाते हैं, learn करते हैं. But if you all can just reflect through the day on like one thing that you unlearned today. हमने क्या जो सीखा हुआ था उसको we have unlearned that. It will be really important. And you all can be part of the network. It is a very agile, कोई ऐसा structure नहीं है. We all come together, do some learning, unlearning sessions on different topics. You all can come and do sessions with us. We are a very diverse and mixed group of people from across 15 states who do stories, who look at data, who look at different trends, and what is shaping India's opinion today on climate, food, consumers, producers, land. So you all can follow us on LinkedIn, drop us a message there. We all are around through the day, catch us, take our numbers, and we look forward to having many of you part of the group, because this learning से I think हमारा broader network है that can also gain from your insights. And hope you all like the session. If you all have feedback, we are very open to taking feedback, things that did not go well, things we should think about going forward, or any other ideas that spark. So thank you for being part of this. We thought we'd do a group photo like you always do for Hands of Transition. Maybe we can do a quick group photo here. I know people want to trickle out. There is another session on narratives happening where one of the participants, Ashwarya, is also a panelist there. So please go and catch that session. If you can, it is on narratives. But should we just do a quick photo because ILDC team
Just
is not
quickly,
pleased by us right now.
Just hard.
Can I just?
Nobody wants to